So Reincarnated as a Sword, one of my more anticipated shows. I wasn't expecting the episode today, and I'm going to do a quick TLDR because people are going to be like, how did you watch this? High Dive isn't streaming it till next Wednesday. If you don't care about that, there will be a timestamp in this video that you can skip to just the review portion of this video, because unfortunately people won't just read the pinned comments. I'm going to have so much misinformation being like, what the hell is going on here? So I want to mention this. So Bilibili is releasing the episode today, and from what I can tell, episode 2 for them should be next Wednesday. High Dive is releasing episode 1 next Wednesday, so I'm not sure if it's going to be a situation where one streaming platform is going to be a week ahead of the other, or if it's just one episode gets released early. Whatever happens, I mean, the subtitles are good, so I'm going to use whatever pops up on Wednesday, and I guess we'll go from there. So if you do want to watch the episode right now, I mean, you can put on your Captain Jack Sparrow outfit and yo-ho-ho, a pirate's life. For me, it's not too difficult to find the episode if you know what I'm saying here, but I did want to make a mention of this because yes, High Dive doesn't release this episode until next Wednesday, and I have no idea if episode 2 releases next Wednesday as well for Bilibili, but we'll see where it goes. So I just want to put that little house cleaning out of the way so people understand what's going on with the release of this one in terms of episode 1 already being out on one platform but not the other. So this was a show that the name alone just sounded amazing. I mean, Reincarnated as a Sword. Isekai is silly, Isekai is wacky. I love the more absurd premises. The thing that got me with this first episode was actually how badass, brutal, yet hilarious it was, all wrapped up into one. And I love the concept of how they presented the sword, because when I hear Reincarnated as a Sword and I see a cute anime girl with ears, okay, she's gonna wield the sword and she's gonna do the fighting, which obviously that will be a key aspect of the show given how the episode wraps up. But the thing that got me was how it can actually fight by himself. Like, he floats, he does all this crazy maneuvers, and before he even meets up with Fran, he ends up defeating so many boss-level creatures that turns him into an OP sword. And I thought that was amazing because the way they animated the levitation in terms of flying around, just cutting things apart, or even the regeneration when it got destroyed. The sword, which gets named Teacher at the end of the episode, is fantastic because there's this self-aware kind of humor to things where, you know, there's just so many jokes that land so perfectly for me. And I think one of my favorites that I've seen in this episode is when he gets stuck in the ground. He basically starts out on this basically stone slab, and there's like these goblins trying to remove the sword, spitting on the sword, and then obviously he comes out, slices them up, and powers up. But after like numerous dozens of boss level encounters, he like lands in the ground because he does mention in this episode that when he's resting in the pedestal, it's kind of like relaxing. So I imagine it's probably the same thing for just general like, hey, you know, flying around using your MP, it's probably exhausting. So launching yourself into the ground to catch your breath is a relaxing time. But then this ground absorbs everything. So if you use skills or anything, it just traps him because it gets absorbed, which is why there's no creatures and everything looks destroyed. So he gets completely screwed in the way. It's hilarious because there's not a lot of reaction, but the little blushes or the little frustration details they'll add to the sword is completely comedy gold. And it's interesting because quickly into the episode, I thought to myself, oh, this is going to be a goofy isekai, like a very fun isekai with a lot of silly jokes. And the episode it was just chock full of them. The thing that was crazy was how brutal they actually made the killing blows. Like, there's moments where he'll just be like attaching himself to a stomach and then spinning around to just completely cut something in half. And it's insane to see what they're able to pull with the details of a floating sword, because often when it comes to swordplay with anime, right, the thing that kind of is interesting is the way characters will like bend down to dodge an attack and then they'll jump around. You know, that's where the animation really comes into play as it's fighting whatever they're fighting. But the sword just flying around and how smooth it was, I actually wasn't sure how they animated so many different moments with this sword fighting, and that's a really great sign for a production. Obviously, first episodes do get like the most focus in terms of an anime production cycle, but given that this is a one core, 12 episodes, and then it'll take a break whether they make more or not, it's probably a good sign that this production cycle is going to be probably pretty consistent. That's where I'm placing my money as it stands. He literally was fighting dragons, creatures coming from the sea. There was so many like variety monsters that it fought, and to see a sword with so much humor, so much awareness to what's going on with this video game mechanic system that felt like a video game mechanic system. Not anything we haven't seen before, but there was a level of, it's not just a guy who got hit by a truck, bled out, reincarnated, now he's a sword. That's going to be our gimmick, and that's what people will come back every week for. Instead, it felt like there was constantly an experimentation of, oh, I killed this, so now I have this. oh, now I can levitate, I can mix all these different skills. And it made for an interesting build-up before Fran, this girl who was a slave, got in contact with the sword, and obviously the sword, being best boy, completely just, I love the moment where he just kills the slave master, snaps his neck with some spell, and then just burns the slave contract as she gets freed. That was the most satisfying moment because you knew she wasn't going back to the slave trade, even though she was obviously beaten to the point that she was scared shitless that she obviously had to do it. I thought it was going to be like he floats up and just cuts the head off. Instead, snaps the neck from a distance and then burns the slave contract. Completely on point. But I love the fact that this episode just felt like we were building up before she was introduced. I thought what would happen was he'd be a generic-ass sword. She would then grow with the sword, and obviously they would become strong together. But the idea of teacher meets student, I think, is more interesting because he's had all this experience before meeting her, meaning he's already pretty powerful. She'll get more powerful alongside him, and he can kind of show her the ropes along the way. And I love how they end the episode in this kind of like sweet way where basically he's getting cuddled because she's sleeping next to him, right? And he's like, you know, when she grows up, she's going to be basically a hot target for so many people, but they'll have to get through me if they ever want to basically touch her, sort of a thing, which I thought was fantastic. But this was a great first episode. I mean, ISEKAI has actually been pretty damn good the past few years, if you ask me, more often than not. But I like the more insane ideas because, I mean, there's one show that's getting animated soon. It's like Reincarnated as a vending machine. That's a stupid-ass name and a stupid-ass idea, but it's probably entertainment gold. And I like the more silly ideas and how they can simultaneously show some brutal isekai action, tell a story in the process of just the journey of Fran getting stronger, and obviously the journey of teacher sensei over here, also whatever he decides to do as well. And then you have like this silly concept being reincarnated as a sword, but it just works so seamless that you say, well, of course it's gonna work. It's anime, but it's not so silly that you roll your eyes. It's so silly you bust out laughing as you're also like, damn, that was a pretty brutal kill. As you just really like the personality of the sword, which is probably the biggest thing you have to sell. Cute anime girls gonna sell by themselves, but add in an enjoyable, intriguing MC with a personality that feels like a sensei, all things considered. I think we're gonna have a fun time watching this girl open up, evolve, grow, become stronger as whatever this sword's also gonna do in the process. I quite enjoyed the voice acting of the sword. I thought it was completely on point. I was expecting, just based on the poster, for some reason I was expecting a more gritty voice. That's just my head. I assume like, oh, cute anime girl, macho voice on the sword. That's probably going to be the dynamic with a silly name like this. But I thought it worked so well with the almost like bubbly persona that never felt like super soft, but just there is a level of charisma there that really sold the performance. And the little taste we got of Fran, obviously she hasn't really opened up yet, so there's not a lot to really compare with her vocals, but for what she was forced into, she exactly sold the performance needed. And I think Fran's gonna be an adorable bundle of energy mixed together with an adorable chaotic sword, and I think that sounds pretty fantastic as an anime. But thoughts and feelings on the first episode, on what you thought of Reincarnated as a sword, whether you love the source material. I've seen a lot of people say they love that source material, so I expect probably a lot of buzz from them. But for people who just saw a name, Reincarnated as a sword, what did you think? And are you planning on checking out future episodes? Do let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed and subscribe if you're new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.